Check. We're live. We have our 2000, what is this? 2006 through 2007 Kawasaki KFX400. Also the same as the '06 through '07 LTZ 400. Supposedly they have near identical parts. So if you guys were watching along last night, I pretty much installed the new valves. Sent this head out to the machine shop to have them cut the seats, and I went ahead and installed new valves. New valves are nicely installed. Got some grease on the valve stems. Very nice. So basically what we're doing now is I was trying to see how to shim it a couple times, and it's a little bit easier to shim it with the cylinder head out, off the bike. A little bit easier to work around, obviously. And I kind of used the original shims to start with, and I was getting like loose tolerances, loose there and then kind of tight here. And same thing on the exhaust, I was kind of tight. So I went ahead and switched out some shims, and I pretty much got it spot on and got both the exhaust to about 10 thousandths clearance. The spec is supposed to be 7 thousandths and 9 tenths to 11 thousandths and 8 tenths. So just a little bit under the maximum tolerance allowed. And then on the intake side, I was able to get both of them to about 7 thousandths, which is perfect. The intake clearance is supposed to be 3 thousandths and 9 tenths to 7 thousandths and 9 tenths. So having them both at 7, it's pretty much perfect. So with the bike like this, you can go ahead and put the cams in, and they shouldn't be tight. They should kind of be free. I didn't torque these down with my torque wrench. I just kind of did them by hand. Torque specs about 7 foot-pounds, and I'll go ahead and torque them with my torque wrench. Once I'm putting the motor together and put the cam chain on. But that's just to give you an idea. And these cams right here, you'd want that number 1 mark on the exhaust valve parallel with the cylinder head, then that number 2 parallel with the cylinder head. And when you have the cam chain on, that arrow there where the number 2 is, that is supposed to have, I think it's 15 pins from that 2 arrow to the 3 arrow. Supposed to have about 15 pins there. So that would tell you that your timing is correct. But if I basically come here, I'll go ahead and zoom in just a little bit. So say you're doing a bench test. I already kind of went through the work, but you got your cams in. Lobes should be facing out or pointing away from each other, and just leave that there. And let's see, I was getting 10,000, so I'll show. Let's pull out my 9 and my 10. Start with the exhaust. Oop. Kind of hold that in place, but nice slip. Just a little loose. We'll try going 1 up, 10 thousandths. And then there we go. Nice slide fit. So if I were to put a 11 thousandths in there, I should have a no-go situation. So if I take my 11 thousandths, it's like really tight. No, it's pretty tight too. Let's see. Just for shits and giggles, try 12. 12 is definitely a no-go. Definitely a no-go. So try that 11 again. Just a little too tight for my liking to call it a true 11. I'd say they're more of a 10, maybe a 10 and a half. That's perfect. That's going to be right in spec from the 7 thousandths, 9 tenths, to 11 thousandths and 8 tenths. So 10, 11 thousandths on the exhaust, that's fine. And if we go ahead and check the intakes, go ahead and pull out a 6, 7, and 8. So we'll go with a 6 thousandths first. Nice and smooth. Let's go with a 7 thousandths. Nice and smooth, starting to get just a little tight. and then 8,000 should be a no-go. And it doesn't go in, and that doesn't go in either. So definitely going to be a 7,000 on the intakes, which is perfect. That's pretty much right at the maximum of our limit. So basically with our valve clearances set this way, pretty much tell the customer, it's kind of it's not a full rebuild, it's just gonna be a top end. So probably tell them like maybe after the first 2 to 5 hours, or a weekend's ride, bring it back so we can do an oil change. And then usually like around 10 hours, once those valves break in, bring it back so we can do a valve inspection, basically check the clearances, make sure, the valves are gonna seat and wear in. They might stretch a little bit, the seats might wear in a little bit, and they'll cause the valves to tighten up. So they'll need a valve adjustment at that point. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it on that. So that's good. And I'll go ahead and just set this off to the side here. Cylinder head is ready to rock and roll. So the next thing that I want to take a look at is the piston. See what we got going on here. Get this kind of taken care of. Let me get my piston kit. All right. Here we go. Very nice. Got a complete cylinder. What is this? Complete cylinder kit. Very fancy. Let's see what we got going on here. So top end gasket kit. Very nice. New cylinder. Kind of just clean that up a little bit. I wonder if I should wash it with some soap and water just to kind of prep it. Probably wouldn't help. It's like they sprayed it with like a Cosmoline or something to prevent corrosion. And then here is our piston. It's a very nice Vertex piston, size A. Looks like that's the right fit. Very nice. Nice and tight the way it should be. Okay. And so I don't always do this. Sometimes on aftermarket parts I will. Oh, excuse me. Usually when you have OEM parts, like a brand new OEM cylinder with OEM piston rings, you really, it's maybe a good habit to double check just to make sure. But usually their in quality inspections pretty damn good to where the tolerances, everything falls like pretty much within a thousandth, almost 5/10 sometimes. That's how accurate it is. But let's see, we have a set of piston rings here. Let's kind of see where we're at. So let's see here. These look like the oil scraper rings, oil rail ring. And that looks like we have 2 compression rings. Let's see, trying to tell. So it looks like one compression ring is a little thinner than the other. And it looks like one of them has a groove on it. I'm going to assume that faces down. Let's see, this thing come with directions. Aha. Let's see. 2-stroke, 2-stroke engines, 2-stroke. There you go. So install top ring, second ring. Let's see, minimum ring gap per inches of bore. Let's see, 4-stroke engines for ATV, UTV. Pistons usage for 20 hours max. Oh shit. 2-stroke engines for go-kart, 2 hours max. Oh shit. So what is this? So it'll hold those clearances up to 20 thousandths, from 20 to 28 thousandths for 20 hours max, and I'm assuming that's when it starts to get a little worn out. Set up on the smaller end, modified and produce high operating temperature, should be assembled within gas on the larger. Then gap piston ring should be on 4-stroke engines. The gap on the second ring should usually be larger than the top ring end gap. This will help to reduce top ring flutter or lifting. So I also have my original piston, wherever that is. I think I put that back in the box here. Here we go. So this is the original piston, and looks like it's using, I can't tell if it's using different rings or not. The rings are kind of stuck into the lands. Let's see. Without cutting myself. There it is. Kind of hard to tell. Okay. So you can see there, the upper ring looks like it has a smaller gap than the bottom ring. So this top one right here, this is probably going to be the top ring. And then this one right here will be the bottom ring. And you can also see the piston ring land groove. It looks like, oh, what's that right there on my piston? Oh, interesting. I see a metal chip in there. Ooh. This didn't pass quality inspection. There's a fucking chip in the ring land groove. Well, that would have been an issue. This is a Vertex piston here. Who knows, though? I did get this, when you get aftermarket parts, who knows? Hopefully this wasn't a return or anything. Oh, shoot, it's almost like in there. Interesting. You need to get that chip out of there. Well, it's a good thing I caught that. Let's see. Have a little screwdriver. Yeah, it's like a little aluminum chip. So I'll probably clean this out just a little bit better, hit it with some contact cleaner. It looks like there's a little bit of, that's not a chip, that looks like some cosmoline or something in there. Huh, interesting. Yeah, a little bit of aluminum there. Kinyu, hello, how's it going, brother? Welcome to the chat. We are checking piston rings, cylinder, valve clearances, and piston rings today. So let's see. Release. This looks like for the exhaust side. The exhaust side has smaller release compared to the intake valve side. There's also an arrow. I'll verify in the service manual, but usually on most models, the arrow will point towards the exhaust valve, but you need to check your book. Could be different. I think I've even seen before sometimes that arrow will point towards the intake, but all depends. Not every bike is the same. Um, but yeah, the other difference too, it looks like there's two differences in the thickness. They could be the same thickness. It's kind of hard to say. Put this piston ring like this, so that fits in there nice. See if this one fits. So that one does not fit, but it fits. Does it fit in there? Let's see. Yeah. So this is going to be, so you can't really fuck it up. They only go in one way, but this smaller one is going to be the second one, second compression ring, and this slightly larger one with the lip on it, that's going to be your upper compression ring. And you can tell if you look at the piston ring groove or the ring gland, there's actually a machine surface, a lip that would catch the lip on this piston ring here. So the only other thing you'd have to make sure is you're installing it, in the correct orientation. And I'm going to go ahead and read the service manual. Want to say it's probably going to be with that lip facing downwards. I would imagine that's normally how they're going to get installed, but have to read the service manual, so I'm, obviously doing it correct. So you pay strong attention to install piston rings with the letter facing up. Rotate the ring end gasket on four-stroke pistons with at least 20 millimeters of separation. Avoid overlapping the ends of the oil expander spacer ring. So yeah, that basically you don't want your rings to be lined up. You want them to be kind of clocked off to the side. And I'll look it up in the manual too and see what direction. And then as far as the oil scraper rings and expander ring, these end gaps there, you would want them like kind of clocked like that. And then the oil expander ring, that kind of clocked off to the complete opposite side there. If you had all of them kind of lined up, with their openings like that, you're basically going to get oil that bypasses and your engine's going to smoke. It's going to start to fill that exhaust in the combustion chamber with carbon and soot, and it's going to increase your compression. Bike's just going to run like crap. So let's see here. I am thinking, let's see, we could probably put the rings on now, and then let's see, piston rings. So what I usually do is I'll put the piston pin in, the circlip on one side to get that clocked, and have it open on the other side, which I feel most comfortable working on the bike, so I can get that pin in. And I want to say I'll usually have the piston rings on. They might move around or shift a little bit as I'm getting this piston in, but then I'll come back, line them up one last time, and then pretty much get this cylinder here and slide it on. So what I'm probably going to do now at this point, got my cylinder head ready to rock and roll, got our valves installed, valve clearancers are set, everything's nice and clean. This cylinder head right here is pretty much ready to bolt down. Got to clean my cylinder and my piston, and then I got to clean my crankcase mating surfaces. I haven't cleaned them since I disassembled the bike. But after all that, I should be able to start rock and rolling and putting this thing back together, and it should be fairly quick. So we'll see. It's kind of raining out here today. I have the Easy Up set up over the bike right now, so if the weather doesn't pick up, maybe I'll go ahead and knock that out. But yeah, so far that's it. This is a pretty nice piston too. So I'm hoping it works out. Let's see, where's that original piston at? I was kind of concerned that the original piston here, you can see that's where it connects to the connecting rod. Usually if it was starting to seize, there'd be a lot of scoring or galling on this area of the piston pin, which it doesn't show any signs of that. So, I mean, besides ingesting a bunch of dirt and the piston rings, kind of washing out the cylinder, the original cylinder was pretty much completely wore through the Nick seal plating. This thing wasn't making any compression. The valves were all shot. One valve was actually about to drop. It was like excessively stretched, like maybe 10, 15 thousandths more than all the other valves. So that's what maybe, hey, let's at least replace that one valve. But then the machine shop's like, you might as well just replace all of them since you're doing a full valve job. So we did a 3-angle valve cut on the seats. I put new intake and exhaust valves, just reshimmed it right now. Put new valve stems, new keepers, and yeah, it's pretty much set up. Then we also got this bike. I finally got that 2006-07 Kawasaki Ninja 1000 that was on my lift. Just kind of a nightmare of a project. Did a bunch of work on it. Doesn't look like the customer wants to pay me for it. I talked to the guy on the phone and he's like, "Oh, I didn't say to do that." I'm like, "Well, I could have sworn I told you it was gonna be, it's gonna cost this much to, fuck around with your bike some more." So, that's the only downside about working on people's stuff sometimes is, you do work for free and end up getting fucked at the end of the day. And, they try to blame their piece of shit bike for, supposedly ran when it didn't run when you picked it up. But, so I'm kind of glad I got that thing off my lift and we got a project here. Actually, let's go ahead and fire this one up while we're at it. Want to see if I fix that oil leak. Oh no, got to pull in some clutch. Want to basically make sure that this thing's there you go. So I'll kill myself in the shed. And I want to see if this thing was leaking. We'll give you the next project right here. Mr. Stu Manick, you got the dream job. I like to think that I do. It's pretty nice when things go smoothly and bikes run good and I can get them in and out pretty quick and make some money. Yeah, it's definitely the dream job. When you get stuck working on people's shit, piece of junk bikes are not the best projects. It kind of sucks. Doesn't look like it's leaking yet. I think it was leaking from right here before. Oh, nice and clean. Yeah, this one right here had some crash damage. Went ahead and fixed the clip on and stuff like that. Done a pretty decent amount of work to this bike. It's been crashed like a handful of times. Pretty much every time the customer crashes the bike, they usually bring it back to me. Last time I replaced the stator cover and the rotor because it was damaged pretty bad. I put a new stator in it. And then looks like the customer crashed it again after I fixed it. I put all brand new parts on the left side. And he tried fixing it himself and it was still leaking. So he brought it back and looks like I fixed the leak. It doesn't look like it's leaking anymore. I went and pressure washed the bike, cleaned it all nice, got all the oil. There was oil all over there was like oil all over the swing arm here. Bike's still a little dirty. I mean, could use a detail, but pretty much all I was doing was trying to get all the grease and dirt off of it, um, or all the oil and grease, should I say. But now that that's good, next thing, We're going to go ahead and rebuild the fork seals. I don't think that side wasn't leaking, but look at this side. This side right here is leaking. I pressure washed it, so all the, oil and stuff that was on it kind of got washed off, but looks like it's still looks like it's leaking. Not so much because the bike's been sitting, but pretty much he wanted to replace this or rebuild that fork, and then I kind of talked him into, yeah, you might as well replace both of them. If one's starting to leak, the other one's probably going to leak pretty soon. So yeah, got projects on projects. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and start prepping up the KFX. Let's take a look at it. Got the KFX right here. Just going to go ahead and clean these surfaces, getting prepped up here, and then pretty much hopefully I have enough room to work. I couldn't get the exhaust off. The exhaust is seized right there. Actually, I didn't want to damage it, try and take it off. So hopefully it's not a complete bitch. Should be able to get my hands in there to hopefully try to get this, get the cylinder back on. Might be a little bit of stuff in the way. I think I should have enough room to work on it. That's about enough room right there. This exhaust, the only thing is this exhaust being kind of in the way is the only thing that sucks, but hopefully I can, figure out a way to work around that. But yeah, just I'm gonna kind of clean out those surfaces there. Connecting rod looks okay. Clean that up. This thing sucked in a bunch of dirt. Basically, like there was like dirt inside of it. So hopefully it's good. We'll find out here shortly. Got the air box all nice and clean. Got the air filter all nice and clean. So we're gonna put new coolant, new oil, and we'll hopefully get this thing started here by the end of the day. Yep. Yeah, here she is, top end. All right, guys. So thanks for hanging out with me. I'm gonna go ahead. I don't think I'm gonna videotape me doing the cleanup process. Maybe I'll go a little bit more in depth, or maybe I'll show installing the piston and the cylinder, because that's always fun to watch. People like to see that. Show the torque specs for torquing the cylinder head and all that good stuff. And yeah, we'll go from there. So maybe on the next hour, should probably take me about 30 or so minutes to prep all these parts and clean those engine cases, and then figure out a way. I need to set up this camera here so I can get a good angle, and we'll be back. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching. If you're new to this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Do a lot of little videos here recently on, a lot of lives on just the random projects that I get, all the bikes I'm working on, the various projects. Hit that thumbs up, and stay tuned. I'm gonna go grab a drink. Maybe I think it's time for a Monster, and we'll be back here on our cylinder kit. Let's get this bike started. Yeah, get that thing started. All right, guys.